Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1, Chapter 17, The Apostate. From Purrgil hyperspace whales to creepy culty baptisms with Jimmy Kimmel's nephew. Dank Barrick, it feels good to be back in Dave Filoni's Star Wars. And yes, I look and sound different right now because I'm shooting this in the New Rockstars Burbank office, but in future weeks I'll be back in my little hole. Hey, by the way, you can watch my behind-the-scenes initial research process for this breakdown in yesterday's live stream on the Deep Dive channel, and Tommy and I tackled all the big questions in our WookieLeaks after show. I love talking Star Wars with that guy, but right here, let's break down all the Easter eggs, references, and visual details that you might have missed. Because yes, we do have some translations of alien languages. And the best way to support our network is to grab one of our Mando-inspired shirts at nerdriot.shop. Okay, the opening Lucasfilm fanfare, as usual, shows a series of droids in metallic helmets with the glow of red and blue lightsabers waving over them. We see Darth Vader, R2-D2, and then the helmet of Fennec Shand, an Imperial pilot, Bo-Katan's helmet, IG-11, a speeder bike stormtrooper, the armorer, and then Din Djarin. Interesting that we paired the armorer with Din Djarin. I believe that the armorer may be the villain of this season. But over all this, we hear some hammering. The sounds of the armorer working the forge in a cave. This, of course, is a favorite Hephaestian archetype of Jon Favreau from his first Iron Man film, and the sounds of hammering played over the credits of Tony Stark's last MCU movie, Avengers Endgame. But here in Star Wars, it starkly reminds us that this series is, at its core, the story of the Mandalorian people and the cultish creed of the Watch. It's as much about hammers and helmets as it is about sabers and starfighters. And the imagery of this opening scene is shot like a sacred religious ceremony filled with symbolism and magic. Now, if you first thought that we were actually watching a flashback to Din Djarin's baptism, that may have actually been by design. The actor they picked does vaguely look similar to the young actor they used for young Din. It speaks to the cyclical timelessness of these Mandalorian rituals. By saving these people, adult Din Djarin is saving his past self. He is intervening in nature's cruel attempt to stymie the Watch's succession. The armorer pours in this tempering liquid to cast the Beskar, and it causes a turquoise shimmer in the water, giving some mysticism to this clan's ritual. It's like the anointing with oil in a Christian sacrament, a sign of a higher power at work. Favreau did confirm that to contrast the Eastern philosophical underpinnings of the Jedi code, for the Mandalorians, they pulled from a variety of religions, including Western warrior codes like those of the Romans. And the Romans were warriors who were overtaken by a fanatical religious faction within Rome, a little cult called Christianity. Hey, everyone, I'm a baptized Catholic. I'm poking some fun, but also, what's the difference between a religion and a cult? A couple hundred years in IRS tax exempt status. Okay, the mythosaur is framed in the background with 10 flame jets of the forge, as if this mythosaur itself is being roasted in a ceremonial pyre. The 10 jets may also reflect the 10 red petals on the branch of the House Beastla sigil. As the armorer hammers away, this mythosaur watches from the background, overseeing everything like a crucifix hanging on the wall in the background of a church. Ludwig Göransson's collaborator Joseph Shirley returns to do the music for this season after doing the music for the Book of Boba Fett, and his percussion beats intensely, matching the hammering. The armorer paints this child's Beskar helmet blue. The color coding seems to adhere to each clan within the Watch, and as we see with Paz Vizsla, the Vizslas wear shades of blue. The procession is flanked by banners, one showing the mythosaur, the signet of this Watch overall, and then on the left, the symbol of House Vizsla. At the bottom of that banner is that reverse F-looking symbol that's also on the sigil worn by Boba Fett, the sigil of Jaster Muriel, that was Jango's mentor. And this white-helmeted one in the procession carries this same flowered branch on a red cloth. Paz Vizsla's son, we think it's a son, Ragnar, is played by Wesley Kimmel, nephew to Jimmy Kimmel, and he's the same kid from some of the in-universe commercials in Marvel's WandaVision. Paz Vizsla is, of course, voiced by Jon Favreau, but underneath the armor, he's played by actor Tate Fletcher, who played an on-camera role in the pilot. We do see some other house banners on display, a green armored Mandalorian holding a red and white banner that might show the animal sigil of Clan Eldar. So what we are seeing here is a type of baptism, thus this boy submerged in water, like in Christian baptisms, and all of this is to show us why Din Djarin bathing in the living waters of Mandalore is such a critical renewal. This is the moment that all Mandalorians in the Watch close themselves off from the world. The armorer recites a pledge and the boy repeats, "I swear on my name and the names of the ancestors that I shall walk the way of the Mandalore, and the words of the creed shall be forever forged in my heart." And the subtitles reveal that the armorer said the way, capital W, of the Mandalore, apostrophe in the middle there, which refers to the ruler of the Mandalorian people. Also, the creed shall be forever forged, of course the concept of forging and armor coming back into their words. But when the armorer places the helmet over Ragnar's head, it seals and locks with this whistle whistle sound effect, the same sound effect that the Darth Vader mask made when it sealed over Anakin's face in Revenge of the Sith. So this encasing isn't necessarily a good thing, it's really a human face being entombed in metal. But the ceremony gets interrupted. Before the boy can promise to never remove his helmet, the beast, or fate, intervenes. So is the watch legitimately cursed? Or is it just their strict ritual to shield their faces and wall themselves off from all other connection that is actually cursed?
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Movies and TV can be great escapism, but when it's time to face things head on, BetterHelp is here to help. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, just answer a few questions about what you're looking for from therapy and what your preferences are. BetterHelp will then match you with a therapist from their network that's right for you. After that, talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether that's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. BetterHelp gives you the same level of professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/newrockstars. That's BETTERHELP.com/newrockstars for 10% off your first month of therapy.
So Paz lays down the heavy repeating blaster fire while others fly onto the beast's back to slap on the charges, and I love this shot where the camera is mounted on the helmet, blaster scar visible. And notice on this one's shoulder plate, the W-shaped Death Watch sigil. This is based on the beastless Shriek Hawk. Unfortunately for them, their excommunicated apostate has to come bail them out. Din Djarin in his modded N1 Naboo starfighter that he got in the Book of Boba Fett, and he fires what? A proton torpedo at the beast, the same projectile that Luke fired at the Death Star. In the cave, the armorer repeats what she told him on the Glavis Ring World, as in, bitch, I already told you once, get! Now, in Chapter 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, the armorer explained how on the night of 1,000 Tears, the Empire bombed the planet of Mandalore with these fusion bombs that apparently turned the sand into this turquoise glass, like the sand of the real world's Trinity atomic testing site. Din shows a shard of this encasing a metallic plate that contains an inscription in the Mandoa language. Now, it's upside down from the armorer's point of view. If you flip it, on the 4th line, you can make out "you out of the field," which is part of the King James Bible Old Testament Exodus Book 10 verses 5 through 6. And credit to General Anubis on Reddit for being the first to translate this fully. And they shall cover the face of the earth, that one cannot be able to see the earth. And they shall eat the residue of which is escaped, which remaineth unto you from the hail, and eat every tree which groweth for you out of the field. And they shall fill thy houses, and the houses of all thy servants, and the houses of all the Egyptians, which neither thy fathers nor thy fathers' fathers have seen since the day that they were upon the earth unto this day. And he turned himself and went out from Purrgil. Yeah, it's a bit odd for Star Wars to have real-world Easter eggs like this, but you know, they've also referenced Indiana Jones on Andor and E.T. in the prequels. This is referring to the 8th plague of Egypt, when Moses had God send locusts upon the crops when Pharaoh refused to free the Hebrews. I actually referenced the Prince of Egypt in my deep dive live stream, and this is a part where it's like, thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Lord. Awesome movie. This parallels the plagues of Mandalore, a similarly cursed people seeking relief from forces trying to smite their firstborn sons, which actually might have inspired the beast's crocodile jaws, like the crocodiles of the Nile that the slave children were thrown into by the Egyptians, and the croc-headed Ammit being the Egyptian devourer of the dead. But are the Mandalorians the Hebrews or the Egyptians, the slaves or the oppressors? Sure, they're diasporatic wanderers like the Hebrews were, but they were forced out of their ancestral land due to, some believe, their own folly. But we could see Mando as Moses, who leads the people through the desert, but never himself makes it to the promised land. That was the job of Joshua, his successor, which might be who Grogu is. Though, Grogu is kind of the bastard of the basket. Notice Grogu is wearing chainmail under his robes. This Beskar chainmail was given to Grogu as a gift by Din Djarin in Chapter 6 of the Book of Boba Fett. Grogu chose this instead of Yoda's lightsaber. While in hyperspace, Grogu gazes up to see a giant shadow keeping pace. These are the Purrgil, a semi-sentient species of hyperspace whales who first appeared in Star Wars Rebels and carried off Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn into hyperspace, never to be seen again. Rebels ended with Ahsoka reunited with Sabine Wren in search of Ezra, and in Mando Season 2, Ahsoka revealed she was still searching for Thrawn. So this sighting of the Purrgil here is a key indicator that we are getting closer to Ezra. And I just love the scale of it, the immense size of the Purrgils compared to the Starfighter. But something even deeper is going on with Grogu here. The blue light, the whale shadows just makes it seem like we're underwater. So Din Djarin is aiming to re-baptize himself this episode, but Grogu is going through his own aquatic style baptism, reaching out to these whales, bonding with them them through the Force. We did see in the Boba Fett finale that with that Rancor, he is able to connect with creatures like this. These whales could be telling Grogu where Ezra is. How does Grogu respond? No thanks. He goes down and cuddles with his Mandalorian papa. He doesn't want to follow a Jedi path right now. This is the way. So they return to Navarro, and across the town, there's a lot more greenery. Remember, Navarro has a volcanic surface, and in the overhead shot, you can see the town is on a lava field. So the greenery is similar to how after a volcano erupts in the real world, it enriches the soil and allows dense forestation to form. Compared to season 1, Navarro has undergone a dramatic upgrade, visible even from this front gate, which is no longer crumbling. Grogu also has a new bassinet with a headlamp light on the side. They pass some Nuna roasting over a fire. These are the common delicacy in the Star Wars universe that you can actually get at Galaxy's Edge. They taste like turkey, because they are, I guess. There's also a COO series cook droid, like the one we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, and another upgrade from before when Kowakian monkey lizards were being roasted by Jawas on a spit. Now wild Kowakian monkey lizards are populating the trees and somehow moving without puppet hands up their butts. The protocol droid tells Mando, yes, since this is a volcanic area, they have geothermal hot springs. Great Karga will later push these on Din as well. Another example of Din Djarin being lured by the waters of other places on his voyage to the living waters of Mandalore. This episode really is just a journey to find the right bathtub. We see this band with a couple Twi'leks and a Gran race. We pass a Mon Calamari. Perched on the statue of IG-11 is a long-tailed bird. Thought that was interesting. But IG-11 is totally Captain Morganing atop some stormtrooper helmets. Also interesting how some guy keeps a small version of that reptilian bat that attacked them in season 1. He's domesticated it. It's a pet on his shoulder. You know, like those cool guys who walk around with parrots? But when Grogu and Din look up at the statue, I love that they animated Grogu's shadow separately to sell the fact that he's floating. But we also see that the streets are now paved with cobblestones, which they were not before. Greef Karga is now the High Magistrate. 2 droids trailing him to carry his cape. Karga's finery and jewelry is a bit much. I'm worried about this guy. They use this fun horizontal wipe edit, matching it on the motion of Grogu force pushing, spinning the chair around. Just a nice bit of visual flow there. But it's also interesting how Greef tells Din he can hang up his blaster when later we realize he really wants Mando to be his marshal, the head of security. So Greef is still being a bit deceptive. The guy keeps a golden bust of himself in his office. I mean, come on. The pirate Vane is a Nikto played by Marty Matulis, a very physical performer with a number of roles with heavy prosthetics, including, trigger warning for some body gore here. Actually, I'm gonna blur some of this out. The monstrosity from Smile last year. The school with a protocol droid teacher looks like the same school where Grogu spent a day in season 2 when he snatched those blue cookies, and the tension escalates. Yeah, I love how on the word soft, Mando leans off the tree and you can hear his hard Beskar scraping the bark. We get a classic Western gunslinger pose on Greef as he reveals his blaster on his hip, just like the shot of Han Solo when he stepped into frame to face Jabba in the spaceport in A New Hope. Greef says Cara Dune has been recruited by the Special Forces and that Moff Gideon is facing a New Republic war tribunal, which could be an analogy to the Nuremberg trials that prosecuted war crimes committed by the Nazis. They dismantle IG-11's statue to try to rebuild him, and we hear Taika Waititi's voice return as he defaults to his original programming before Kuiil reprogrammed him to be a nurse. Yeah, IG-11's actually reverting to the last thing he said before Mando shot him down to save Grogu in the pilot episode. He crawls toward them like Terminator to Sarah Connor, and I love the stop motioning movement. It just looks like the old school design that always looked really cool in the 80s Star Wars films, but definitely makes him look real creepy too. Mando tells Greef that he cannot handle IG-11 with his limbs if things go scud. Scud being an in-universe term Palimoto in season 2 referred to a skank and a scud pie. There's also the character of Scud, the disposable assassin, Rob Schraub's comic about a malfunctioning robot assassin who does kind of look like an IG droid. The Anzellans are here. They're all voiced by Shirley Henderson, who also voiced Babu Frick in The Rise of Skywalker, and this is the actress who played Moni Myrtle. So the Anzellans are renowned droid repairmen because their eyes can spot super tiny details in the wiring. Mando sits inside this tiny workshop looking like Gandalf and Bag End in The Fellowship of the Ring. Yes, hoodoo is the Huttese word for bantha fodder, so our man does speak Huttese. And Grogu hugs the Anzellan, and I just love one puppet hugging another puppet. Real Miss Piggy and Kermit vibes here, and I just love that they had to build one merged puppet to pull this off. The pirates return in the asteroid field, and Grogu tucks into Din's bandolier strap to stay snug. During the chase, the N1 legitimately disappears for a beat, and synced to Joseph Shirley's music and a blast of Ludwig Göransson's flute. With each of these hits, Mando takes out each pirate one by one. But it was all a trap to lure Mando into Gorian Shard. His pirate ship looks like an Old Republic Thranta-class heavy cruiser. In the concept art at the end of the episode, we see this pirate ship has its own badass launch bay at the top of it. Pirate King, Gorian Shard, one of the most amazingly designed Davy Jones Jones motherfuckers I've ever seen in Star Wars. It's played by Nonzo Anozie Zarazoan Daxos from Game of Thrones. Din boosts out of there, piloting to Kalevala, the home world of House Kryze, mentioned a few times in Clone Wars but never shown in live action until now. This rain-soaked castle strikes the sharp angles, evoking Dragonstone from Game of Thrones, and it forces Din into yet another soaking, the wrong dousing of water on his path to the right bathtub. He even carries on with Bo-Katan in the next scene completely soaked. This great hall is empty, and it's covered in the banners of the Night Owl sigil of Bo-Katan, which is pretty sad considering it seems like Axwos and Koska Reeves abandoned her when she didn't come back with a Darksaber, kind of like she threw her own birthday party and no one showed up. Bo-Katan lounges casually, bored, despondent in her throne, her leg pointing toward this interesting carved tableau of her warring ancestors. At the top of that dog pile is one with a sword. Really, the only Mandalorian known with a sword historically is Tar Vizsla or someone else from House Vizsla in its family tree. I wonder if this tableau shows the war of the Kryze household. The other side, a tableau that would be to Bo-Katan's right, might show another tableau that shows them finding peace. War on one side, peace on the other, like the US presidential seal with the eagle. One side with the arrows representing war, one side with the olive branch representing peace. And in this case, Bo-Katan's leg would be angled to the war side. We never see the other side in the scene, maybe because Bo-Katan is unable to see the light. Now, when these two first met in season 2 on Trask, the positions were reversed. It was Bo-Katan who wanted to go to Mandalore. Din Djarin was the one who believed it was cursed and poisoned.
That planet is cursed. Anyone who goes there dies.
But now it is Bo-Katan who says, but we know there is some Mandalorian magic. We just don't know if the magic is a blessing or a curse. Are they the chosen people or the doomed people? We will find out next week when Din heads to the ruins of Sundari. Hey, a reminder to subscribe to our new channel, The Deep Dive, and you can support us by grabbing some merch at nerdriot.shop. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss, follow New Rockstars, and subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching, bye.